Hello all, Erick Hoxter here of ChessDaily.net, and today's chess lesson is about exploring different chess openings to figure out what really suits your style and how to develop an opening repertoire, and what I did to finally start changing up my style to figure out what best suits my needs and my style. A couple months ago, I started taking chess lessons from International Master Yaccov Norowitz. And what I told him was, for the longest time, I was playing e4, I was playing the Scotch, I was playing the Italian, I was playing the Roy Lopez. And what I realized is all these lines are very theoretical. There are tons of books on them. They're always played at high level play. So you do have a lot of games that you can look at to reference. But unless you're actually studying these games, it really gets tough to become and stay a solid e4 player. And they do provide a lot of explosive opportunities. However, if you're not exploring any c4 openings or d4 openings or knight b3 or b6 openings where you fianchetto your bishop, you're really leaving a lot out on the table. And what I did today, I saw a video from International Master John Bartholomew from one of his tournament games in Dallas, Texas, where he played a national master and who wasn't too familiar with d4 openings. Apparently, his style was really always playing e4, and when he played John, he played d4. And what John did was play the Benko Gambit, and that's signified from 3b5 rather, right here. And this is an opening I decided to play this game because it was something I just wasn't familiar with. And what I realized is I tried the e4 openings, I tried the c4 openings. I tried the English attacks, and for defending, I've tried knight f6, I've tried d4, d5, c6, the Slav, I've tried the Queen's Gambit declined, and I've never really tried a Benko Gambit. I like e4 styles because they're explosive, they tend to be more open, less positional, more tactical, and when I saw the Benko Gambit, I realized this might make a lot of sense for me to play. I gambit a pawn, and the idea is that you get these open A and B files, and you just get a lot of fun play that's not really heavy in, well, the Benko Gambit is heavy in theory, but you get a lot of opportunity to really fool around and work around ideas rather than solid book theory. And this is the game I played, and it just made a lot of sense to me. There was no real complications. It wasn't too boring. Everything was just normal until I could find a way to make some noise and get into a hopefully a decent endgame where I can utilize my open A and B files. But let's look into this game and see how it took place and see if the Benko Gambit might be an opening for you. So a lot of people end up taking the pawn here. My opponent did not, however. He decided to play the Benko Gambit declined. Now this is bad because the video I watched, the only video I've ever watched on the Benko Gambit, which was John Bartholomew's video, it was a Benko Gambit accepted. So what I did was just take some time. This is a 10-minute game with no increment. And I figured I'd just continue in Benko Gambit fashion and leave the pawn there and then just focus on developing my bishop, fianchettoing my bishop. That's what he does, and I go ahead and contest the dark squares there. He plays his knight to d2, and I figure it's a little congesting, and I wanted to figure out how I could take advantage of it. I couldn't take the c pawn, the c4 pawn right away, so I figured I'd do another move that's just common in the Benko Gambit, and from what I've seen, queen b6 is a common square for the queen. And so I just decided to play normal moves, simple moves that don't really get my pieces into trouble. And, okay, so he pushes his pawn forward. I play d6 so I can play knight to d7, connecting my knights. Just common moves. You don't have to think too much, you're not getting yourself into trouble. We both just get castled, and we just have a lot of fun. Most people say that's boring, but once you get into the middle game, you start to see where things get to explode and progress. So he finally takes the pawn, and I sat here and I thought for a bit, what should I do? Because he has his bishop defending, so it's just a free pawn. So I figured to do what I do in the beginning, which most people do in the Benko Gambit, is to put up another pawn. So I put out my a pawn, I played a6, he took. Now, at this point, I took back, so I'm down one pawn, and we trade pieces. And when you're down material, or when you play a gambit and you're down a pawn, you do not really want to trade pieces and go into the endgame as quickly as the other player would like you to. However, this is typical of Benko Gambit fashion. You sacrifice your b pawn, you sacrifice your a pawn, you take with your bishop. He just so happened to have his bishop on e2 to be able to recapture. And if it were still on f1, I'd end up, and he were accepting the gambit, and I ended up taking the a pawn with my bishop, I would have taken his bishop on f1 anyway. So I figured, why not go for this? So he played his queen out. And here, I think I made a mistake. Yeah, so I figure my knight here is a little misplaced. And I want to move it to e4. And the only way I can really do that is by playing knight g4. And my opponent sees what's wrong with this. So I play my knight g4. And we trade bishops, which normally you wouldn't want to do when you have a fianchettoed bishop where your castled king is. But that's just the nature of the position, and that's just what I happen to play, trading again more pieces, which is not advised. However, I didn't seem like I was in too much danger, so I had no problems really trading pieces. So this is where where he refuted my idea of bringing my knight to e4, attacking my queen. And now I'm not able to bring my knight to e4 now, because if he takes with his knight, it'll be a free piece because he'll be attacking another piece of higher value with his queen attacking my rook here. So instead of doing that, it was like a wasted move. I move my queen back, he attacks, I move my knight rather, back to f6, right where it was, and there's nothing. But again, I'm not in any danger, things are just so calm. And I'm not worried about tons of theory. I'm just playing, common moves. If I make mistakes, they aren't too critical. They're just inaccuracies at most. And my opponent was taking a lot of time with his moves, and the Benko game is not really seen at my level of play, around 12 to 1500. So I was really glad to be taking a lot of time off my opponent's clock. I think here he had about 5 or 6 minutes, and I still had about 7 minutes 30 seconds. So he was attacking my rook. I had to defend. Again, no-brainer moves. Takes my knight. We trade down, and all this time I'm still down a pawn. And he plays a4, which is a common move in the Benko, but it's really used for an outpost for a knight. I guess he just moves it this time to defend it, so he doesn't have to have his queen tied down to the defense of the a2 pawn. So we continue. I end up attacking one of his other pawns. Now here, even though I'm down a pawn, I figure I can trade queens here. Because once he recaptures, I end up winning my pawn back. And he goes ahead and attacks my rook, and my pawn is a little fork. So I defend it, and we're even on material. But I see a way for me to win yet another pawn and be up material in the endgame. I guess I can pause and allow you to have a chance to figure that out. So I played knight to d2, and it allows me to trade rooks, and I'm up a pawn. Or excuse me, we're even on pawns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah. So then I attack his other pawn, and I'm winning his A and B pawn, which is very great, and it looks like we're going to have an even, very boring endgame. So that was a mistake by him. He allows me to take the pawn. I'm not sure if there's a better move. I don't think you can I don't think he can really defend that pawn. But what he is doing is attacking my e-pawn, so it makes up for it a little bit. However, once he takes, he allows me to do what I want to do anyway, which is bring my king towards the center. So he moves his knight. I attack his d-pawn, that way I can have or try to get myself a pass pawn in the center. It looks like I'm not going to be able to get a pass pawn on the side, which is more ideal. He defends the pawn, I attack it again. And he moves his king towards the center, so I just take the pawn right away and move into this winning endgame. And another thing to note is while you're not studying open theory, if you're playing these d4 openings, and you're playing a lot of openings that are revolved around ideas, like the London system or the Trompowsky, or the Stonewall, and what you should really be doing is not looking at opening theory, but looking at endgame studies and really start to predict where you'll stand in the endgame, knowing if you'll be a pawn up, or knowing who will have the better king and pawn endgame, or what minor piece will be better for you in the endgame, and things like that. So he brings the king towards the center. I think I made a mistake here. I think I probably should have played king e4. So again, he contests my king. We move our pawns. I just want to try to put him in Zugzwang. Not too sure how to pronounce the word. Pardon me. And then I move my pawn, because I can't move my g-pawn because I'll give him a pass pawn, thus giving away the game. And now he has to move his king because he can't move his g-pawn, or else he'd be giving me a pass pawn. So he moves back. And this is just all Paul Kerr's endgame study, king and pawn endgame. And here he resigned, and I ended up winning the game. So the big point here is to really take a look at different openings and see how they can either help you or hurt you, or see what really suits your style. This for me was a boring endgame. My opponent made one more critical mistake than I did, and I was able to take advantage, and not even aggressively take advantage. Everything kind of just fell into place. And I'm going to try the Benko Gambit a little more and try a few more d4 openings and see if I can really just use my endgame prowess that I've been studying on to really help me win more games and jump up the rating ladder. And I'm going to try to use this opening over the board, because if an international master can do it against a national master, I believe that I can do it over the board in class level play. So I hope this has helped. Try the Benko Gambit for yourself, or if you're an e4 player, or if you're a d4 player, and you haven't tried any big opening attacks with either e4, d4, or c4, whichever one you haven't tried, go ahead and give another one a try. Watch a master level game with these openings and use them yourself and see how they treat you. Until next time, be well, my friends.